What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Messages to My Neighbor. My name is Tyshawn Garrett, author of To My Neighbor, The Power of a 31-Day Reflective Journal. I am so excited to be here today. First and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to episode 1 on gratitude. You guys have been amazing as far as like reaching out, liking, sharing, subscribing. I genuinely appreciate it. As I mentioned before, we're going to be tapping in all year. So I want you guys to stay tapped in. I want you guys to stay interacting with us and just stay on the lookout for everything I will be dropping this entire year. I'm just very excited to be here today. Today is episode 2. We're back. We're better. But we have some amazing, my guests today, amazing individuals who have really been a pillar for me, leaders, influencers on my life to this day. I look back and just cherish the moments of meeting you guys and having you in my life to help me to get to where I am today and to become a better person, because I'm not there yet, but you guys have been an amazing, amazing leaders for me. I really appreciate you guys, and I'm just honored to have you all as guests here today. You guys have been amazing, influenced me, motivated me as an individual along my journey to where I am now and like where I'm planning to go. So I couldn't thank you guys enough. Once again, I am honored. So before we get started, I just want to give my guests a chance to introduce themselves. I'm with the Big Steppers today, y'all. I am with the Big Steppers, so I am like really honored. I am too, okay? But just give them a brief background, who you are, your name, where you went to. You guys know what to do. You can just take it from there. We can start with Mr. Walker. Start us off.
Okay. So my name is Reggie Walker. I am a higher education professional. I serve as the director for the Educational Opportunity Program at Rider University. I met this amazing guy here, and I served as an EOF counselor at Montclair State University, where I still currently teach in their Family Science and Human Development program. So in addition to my role as director and adjunct professor at Montclair and Rider University, playwright, author, and current doctoral student I'll be defending in the next couple of weeks or months. So I'm excited about that and bringing that journey of my life to an end, because it's been a crazy journey, long time coming. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Nice, thanks for that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Charlotte Searcy. I met this young man in the 7th grade. I'm a secondary educator for St. Benedict's Prep, also the academic dean for the girls division.
All right. That was brief.
I am Tony Hill.
We're gonna get
We're gonna tap into that.
We're gonna tap into all that.
Tony Hill, Mr. Hill. I actually met this young man. He's the reason why I stayed at Link with his class in general, but had the opportunity. That was my first class, and I fell in love with him. So I was offered another opportunity in the district, but that was where my heart was at that summer. So I, was a 8th grade math teacher. Stayed at Link for about 8 years. Was a dean before I transitioned from. After I transitioned from there, went on to teach teachers at Relay Graduate School of Education, where I'm currently working.
Nice. So once again, I guess it speaks for itself. You guys are doing like amazing work. Their civic service is like everything, and I just genuinely appreciate you guys. First and foremost, just want y'all to know that before we get started. But
Can I just say something real quick? As individuals who are educators for you, I think this does us proud, because we do this work to want to see our students go ahead and fulfill their potential and maximize their potential, fulfill their dreams and stuff. So to see you have met us at different stages in your educational journey, and we all can see the fruits of the labor that we put in day in and day out. That's a very rewarding thing. So on behalf of us, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
What you've been able to accomplish, and I know that you have more in store for us. So, we're just as honored to be here to have one of our students bring us back, and we can see what it is that you're doing. So that's a really
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Big time.
About to do a Jericho right now.
Not the Jericho.
So yes, that's everybody in a nutshell. As you guys can see, they're doing amazing work. Have done amazing work, and are still doing amazing out in their fields. So once again, I'm honored. But I guess we could jump right in. I was just thinking about like one thing that brings us center, that consolidates us all while being here, and your influence on me, each of your influences on me. And it all comes down to how you guys helped me to become structured as an individual.
Yes.
So today I really just want to tap into something that I feel is very important in life, that a lot of people can benefit from. Sometimes not even sometimes, almost all times, we act out of learned behavior.
Yes.
In some way, shape, or form. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes we do things that's second nature. We don't even have to think about because we've done so much of a job of conditioning ourselves to get used to behaving or reacting a certain way to certain things. But that can be a blessing and a curse. And I realize that, it can really be a blessing and a curse in a sense where you have to make sure that you're conditioning yourself to get accustomed to all the things that help you become a better person, and not conditioning yourself to behave on things that are detrimental to your growth, who you are as a person and becoming your better self. So that brings me front and center to our topic of self-discipline, which I feel is essential in that process of being able to decipher between what's, conducive to your growth and what's actually detrimental. So I wanted to focus in on self-discipline, as I know all of you guys have helped me to discipline myself along my journey. I have so many memories as I'm like staring into your faces. I'm like just reminiscing over all the memories that I have of how you guys have helped me to discipline myself to be better. So I just want us all to know that we do have the power to control how we react in situations. We do have the power to control our routines and our actions, changing our thoughts to then be able to react better in certain situations or in life in general. So I guess we could just jump right in. I want us to be completely comfortable. It's going to be like, I'm going to be doing a nitpick in this episode, okay? Because I'm here with the big steppers, so I'm soaking it all in. You get what I'm saying?
Let's go, grasshopper.
The topic is self-discipline. So the style of this is going to be, just a live interview where I ask you guys questions, and I want you guys to answer based off of your past experiences, your knowledge thus far along your journey, and we can just stimulate some amazing conversation. That's it. We just catching it on camera. So
There we go.
all righty. So Miss Seriously, I want you to start us off. Okay. If I were to ask you, how would you define self-discipline? I swear I love you. If I was to ask you, how do you define self-discipline? What would be your definition?
First of all, I want everyone to understand the difference between punishment and discipline. Discipline is something that is taught. Okay, that's what discipline is taught. It's learned. It's a topic or a concept. My discipline is education. I'm not being punished in that. If I choose not to follow what was taught, then someone will come with a punishment.
Okay.
Because you refuse or you chose not to follow the discipline.
Gotcha.
Self-discipline is for you. So we talked about nature and nurture at the beginning. When we said nature.
Yeah.
It's in your nature. So nurture, that was my job.
Gotcha.
My job was to nurture you. You had the nature of the young man, which comes from birth and it comes from what you have in your own home. But when I get you in the classroom, it's my job to nurture that which you are, who you're going to be, and what is going to be taught.
Got you.
So
That's amazing.
self-discipline. When you would sit there after I taught you a concept, you would become nervous.
All the time.
You would
All the
become
time. Oh my
nervous.
God, I remember those days.
And so when I chose to nurture you further through encouragement, I wanted you to call into your self-discipline.
Gotcha.
What do you need in order to get through this test? Self-discipline. Control yourself. Tap into your inner chi, tap into your core, and control yourself. Self-discipline.
You did that. You definitely did that, and you held me to that standard too from before. But no, that's amazing, and I love how one thing that you pointed out, and it's a representation of your work, is that you were doing more of just pulling it. Like you probably saw qualities in me that I didn't even see in myself. You get what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
you had the, I had the opportunity to benefit from you, just pulling these things out of me and like really just pushing me to be my best self. So I still appreciate that to this day.
Well, one thing I always say about children, it is their innate need to be recognized,
Interesting.
to get attention, the innate need. So my job as an adult is to fulfill that need.
Okay.
You want attention? I will give it to you.
Right.
You only have to decide, will it be positive or will it be negative? Because I will give you that attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's my job to see the things that you don't see in yourself, to pull it out, just to pull it out. This is why you are a quiet person, and I always wanted you to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't quiet when you needed to speak up, but when you came to the
I ain't gonna go there,
classroom,
Miss Sissy.
well, you had different dynamics.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You had different dynamics,
Mhm.
and so you had to learn to know when, that self-discipline,
Right.
when to be able to bring those things out, and you didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to just crumble in front of a test, when I say crumble, he will crumble. But when you would crumble, it's just a test, like a vocabulary test. It wasn't spelling, because I didn't believe in that spelling stuff.
Mhm.
We can spell words all day long. I believed in understanding the meaning of the word and being able to apply it.
Right.
You would just crumble, and I would say, you know this.
Yeah.
You studied for the test. Why are you crumbling now?
Right.
And that, again, was helping you to realize I am more than this test,
Mm-hmm.
and I know what I can do.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, it definitely makes sense, because I can recall from the time that you mentioned, being in your class and taking those tests and really just getting to the point. I used to have disbelief in myself, I cannot do this. I always tell everyone that Link, when I went to the middle school where I met these two individuals, that was like a life-changing moment for me. You get what I'm saying? I was coming from public school. It was something different. I remember preparing for talent shows and pep rallies before I remember studying for a test when I was in public school. You get what I'm saying? So coming to Link, it gave me that structure and that discipline in a sense, which followed me till this day. Now it helped me to gain that confidence. I'm unstoppable. You get what I'm saying?
That's right.
There's really nothing that I
That's
can't do. Seeing, looking back and seeing where I came from.
And that's through self-discipline.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But Ms. Cersei, thanks for that. I really
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next up, and I think I want to call on Mr. Walker for this one.
Okay.
Why do you feel discipline is important for anyone to master?
So for me, right, discipline, and I'm glad you had started off with this conversation and defining it in the words, right? Because words do matter.
Yes.
And so I know for me, because I'm so self-critical and I'm hard on myself, when I hear the word discipline, I can immediately think of punishment.
Yes.
Right.
Something strenuous. It can become a very negative word when you hear discipline.
That's right.
But I operate best when I reframe it and I look at discipline as management.
Absolutely.
Right. And so for me, self-discipline is self-management and having the ability to control certain things, regulate, and ultimately manage behaviors that will serve me well. And so that is how I've had to look at discipline. And it's funny because when you had given us this topic, I immediately was like, I don't know why he would pick me for this. Because sometimes I think when we think about discipline, we look at it as a very one-dimensional thing, and we don't recognize that our lives are broken down into several areas or more, right? So I can be extremely disciplined in 4 areas and lack discipline in another. But for me, I'll look at the area where I'm lacking discipline and just go, well, maybe I'm not that disciplined. And it's like, no, you're extremely disciplined when it comes to X, Y, and Z. So for me, getting in shape, that's where I will be honest. Getting me in the gym and trying to work out, I'm just I tried. The discipline is not there, right?
Yeah.
But I am very disciplined in other areas of my life, right? And so I have to sometimes stop and give myself a little bit more credit to say you are disciplined. Because that's not even a word that if somebody was to say, hey, describe yourself. Because I'm thinking so negatively about the area where I need to be more disciplined, I won't even describe myself as being disciplined. But then I have to really step back and take an honest assessment of my life and go, no, you're teaching 2 classes,
Right.
a husband with 2 kids. One of your classes is an hour and 30 minutes away. You're trying to finish up a doctoral degree. There has to be some type of discipline in your life for you to be able to accomplish and do all of these things. So yes, you're not in the gym like you probably should be, or you're not eating the right foods all the time, and you may fall off the wagon there. But in other areas of your life, you're extremely disciplined. And so I do think for anybody, when we start talking about self-discipline, look at your life as my pastor always says, like our life is broken down to a pie and you got all these different slices. And so I think I can look at one slice and go, I need to be more disciplined here.
Yes.
But in the other slices, to give myself that credit and say, yeah, you are prioritizing and saying no to things that you should say no to and yes to things. Because I think that's also a part of discipline. Too.
Yes.
The ability to say no and yes to things that you're supposed to say no and yes to. Sometimes we only think about the no's. Like, I'm disciplined because I'm saying no to these things that aren't good for me, but are you also saying yes to the things that are good for you? So for me, it's learning that, discipline is not this one-dimensional thing, and to give myself more credit in the areas of my life where I'm exercising self-discipline.
And I love that response because I feel like it was twofold in a sense where, essentially what I'm hearing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, we also have to discipline ourselves to become used to appreciating more about ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Having that sense of gratitude, which goes back to the first episode.
Right.
Just disciplining ourselves to be like, you know what, you don't have it all together. You have some areas that you can improve, but for the most part, you're balanced.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? Because even those areas that you're not really strengthened in as you would see, you're on a process of strengthening it more.
Right.
It's still balancing out because you have some other areas where it's like, all right, I got it all together here.
Yes.
And that's what kind of accommodates in a sense. So just having that gratitude of being balanced.
Right. And that's why I like that you started with that, because for some of us, when we hear discipline, we think about how we were disciplined, and it was usually this form of punishment. So when we hear discipline,
and that's what
it could be traumatic for some people, especially if you grew up in a house where there may have been a very abusive situation. So when you hear somebody say, you need to be more disciplined, your mind could immediately go back to, well, I got beat, I got in trouble, I got punished all the time. So discipline to you becomes this very negative thing when it's not supposed to be that. So I think, we do have to realize the power that words have and what we give certain words. So I like that you
that was a slave mentality.
Absolutely.
See, when our people hear discipline, it takes us to that trauma.
Right.
So when you say self-discipline, it's like you're going to beat yourself up over the things that you cannot do. So you need more discipline. You need more self-discipline. So that means I need to beat myself up, and that's not what it means. It means to teach yourself how to do what you need to do in order to accomplish your goals. So don't ever misconstrue that word.
One thing that I took from what you said is that a lot of times we know, what we have to do to discipline ourselves. Like, we have the knowledge, but then disciplining ourselves is like that extra step. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we just got to start acting on what we know sometimes, and really just focusing in and just like looking within and critiquing ourselves about how can we become our best selves. So that really stood out to me when you mentioned
Or sometimes find a mentor that you can talk to, or emulate. And you can say, well, they got it together, so they have it together. Why can't I get it together? Well, we're really struggling at home. We're like, Lord.
But it's that balance though. And I think that's why I was so honored to have you guys here. People that
the honor's all ours.
I still look up to. Thank you. I still look up to this day. You get what I'm saying? And that's what I want the audience to take away from this too. Even though you guys are very well, established in your careers and things like that, just like you mentioned, like, y'all probably don't have it all together, or you might feel like it's areas that you can improve at. You get what I'm saying? So just having that moment of transparency will really help people to realize, you know what? At the stage I'm at, I'm doing something right. If I can relate to them at this point, I know I'm doing something right. So that's why I was really just like honored to have y'all here.
And transparency is important, right? Because I think, especially for people who are looking at us and they assume that we got it all together, we're so disciplined, we need to be transparent about that journey of getting to this place of being quote unquote disciplined. I had to have a conversation with two of my students who literally got into a physical altercation, and they're in college, right? They're getting into a physical altercation. And it's like, while we're having this conversation with them about this is not the place to act like that, to behave like that, I took the opportunity to say, you know what, when I was in college, my friends and I, we did some stupid things, physical altercations, arguments, and it was a process for me to learn, especially coming from Trenton, New Jersey, where you grow up in these urban environments where you're raised, if somebody gets in your face, you get them out of your face.
That's survival.
If somebody disrespects you to a certain degree, you have to check that, right? And so I had to learn to discipline myself to go, everything doesn't deserve a reaction. I don't need to respond to everything. I don't need to retaliate to everything. I can walk away. I can calm myself down.
Yes.
But it took me a minute to get to that point. So if I'm sitting here talking to a 19-year-old student, I can't make it seem as though I was never 19 and didn't have that same issue
That's right.
or struggle. And so even being able to share with them, like, listen, when I was a freshman, me and my friends had beef with these other students and we didn't like each other and there were things that happened. And them just being able to look at me and go, oh, so this isn't just a me thing. And it's like, no, I get it. This is how we've been raised. This is how we've been brought up. And so you're not going to go 18 years living your life being taught to be aggressive. And then just because you step foot on a college campus, you're no longer aggressive anymore. And you have to switch that immediately. And that's just not realistic. And so, but it took me having to be transparent with them to say, I get it. I understand it because it was a journey for me. It's still a journey for me. And I'm a professional. I sit in meetings sometimes and people say the wrong thing. And I immediately be wanting to say, and I have to catch myself and where I'm at. Right. So
I was thinking, you like pushing me under the table. You're like this. We were sitting in some meetings, I was like this. You're like, fix your face. And I'm like,
right. So we have to do that professionally. So for me to sit here and act like I can't understand what this student is going through because they had a moment where they lost their cool. Yes, even though I got to tell you that there may be a consequence that comes with this and we got to deal with the consequences of our actions. What I can't do is let you think that my life is so structured that I can't relate to that. And the reality is, like I said, if I'm a professional, I'm not sitting. And there's been times where I've been in meetings and I literally wanted to curse and go off. And I'm like, I can't do that in this space. So how dare I sit here and act like I can't relate to a student whose buttons were pushed, who's only 18 and hasn't gone through life and learned some of the skills for them to put that type of stuff into practice. That would be unfair for them to have me sit there and act like I got it all together. That's not.
That's so true. And I find that for the individual, a lot of times, like the ones who try to act like they have it all together, the ones that are not being transparent, not being realistic with themselves and others, it's like now you're just putting an extra layer on yourself. So next up, and Mr. Hill, this is for you. We mentioned, and I also, when we were just speaking, I mentioned how, Link was that transformation for me. It gave me like that perspective, that deeper perspective of life. It made me want to discipline myself more. I found that was like that transition for me to just appreciate life more. So my question to you, Mr. Hill, is there a particular stage in life where you feel discipline is most important? And if so, why?
That's a great question. And for me, discipline is always important. In all transparency, it was 7th and 8th grade for me where it was most important, right? And to be transparent with you all, my mom had me at 16. She didn't graduate from college. My dad, he was 17. He wasn't there like I needed or wanted him to be.
They were babies.
They were babies.
They were babies.
They were babies, but that taught me that I needed self-discipline, right?
Absolutely.
The oldest of 3, so I gotta set that example and be self-discipline for myself. Because to me, self-discipline is intentionally choosing to do that.
Yes.
That's my definition. That's how I interpret it. Right? So, like Circe was saying earlier, she pulled it out of you. It was my 7th grade math teacher who pulled it out of me. She's probably the reason why I went on to teach math. I remember writing her a letter saying, this is not the environment for me. Because I was with it was different groups, similar to how Link was. Like, you had the teams.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Look,
like
say
the team
less.
that I was in.
Look, say less.
So I wrote my teacher a letter. I remember this verbatim.
Get me out of here.
That sums it up. Get me out of here. Because I have that self-discipline. Like, I want it better. I'm choosing it better. I see that they have this other team that's taking advanced classes, so to speak. So I wrote her a letter. Needless to say, I had a meeting with the principal. And a couple of weeks later, I was in that team. That was a life-changing moment for me. Graduated 8th grade as valedictorian because of that change. And I say all that to say it's that middle school area where I think is most important. Because you're learning a lot. You're making most of your own decisions. And that's pretty much determining how your high school career is going to go.
That is true.
So I think for me, middle school years definitely are the most crucial when it comes to that self-discipline.
I would agree.
Can I tap into something? Because you know me.
Absolutely.
So you said you had to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
So it sounds like once you get this hold on this self-discipline, you're able to advocate, self-advocacy, being able to say, you know what, this is what I need and this is what I want. But people can't do that unless they have self-discipline. because they don't recognize what they need and what they want. And so it becomes this chain reaction of continuing to be punished
Right.
in your life
Right.
when you need not be punished in your life. You need to be rewarded. But the only way you're going to be rewarded is you work hard, self-discipline, and then advocate for yourself. So I like that.
Okay.
Yes.
No, that's
I like
amazing.
that.
That's
I like
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that twist. Miss Thiercy.
Uh-huh.
Miss Thiercy.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
each
Look
of
at
our
you, yes.
right. Each
I
of
said, I'm
our
not looking like What?
each of our journeys, I feel like, is what really shapes us.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
our experiences, how we respond to our experiences.
Mhm.
All of that is like that learned behavior, going back to when I was mentioning how we condition ourselves.
Mhm.
So my question to you is, along your journey, how has having discipline helped you to get to where you are in life now?
How much time do we have?
You better talk about it, Miss Simpson.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Okay, so it's so interesting. When I've only taught, well, I can't say I've only taught. When I started working in the inner city, kids would say, Miss Seriously, you from the hood? And I said, no, baby, I'm from the suburbs, but I like to play in those streets. Now, I say that to say this. When you talk about self-discipline, my parents took it upon themselves to send me to my aunt's home in Brownsville, New York. Well, she was an alcoholic. So why would my parents, who were very stable, and we grew up in a stable environment, send their children to an alcoholic aunt's house in the summertime when we could have gone anywhere?
Right.
Well, they wanted us to be well-rounded. They wanted us to be able to adapt to different forms of environment. But we had to have self-discipline. So I could have run the streets with my cousins and tore up. A couple of times I did. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I would self-discipline myself. I was self-disciplined enough to know I don't want to go around the corner and beat that little girl up.
Right.
I don't want to do that. But if that's what you want to do, you go ahead. I'm going to go sit on the stoop and be comfortable with that. So I wanted to preface this. So my parents taught us to be very well-rounded. When I say us, my siblings and myself. My father died in 93. My mother died 3 years later in 96. I graduated from college in 93. I was there for both my parents' deaths. I held my father's hand as he transitioned, and I held my mother's hand as she transitioned. I was the only one home. They both called me home to be with them. So people were telling me this is a blessing. How is it a blessing? I felt it was a curse that I'd be the only one home to see them go through this. But I did. So at the point, I'm a young lady, I'm a young woman, I'm just out of college, young. And I was doing very well for myself, but I'm at home and literally I was having a mental breakdown, but there was no one there to help me. But I fell on my knees. And then that's when I prayed to God that night. And I said, you've got to do something or I'm not going to make it. Now, please do not misconstrue what I'm saying. I prayed to God, but then I said, you know what, who knows me better? It'd be my parents. I prayed to my mother and my father. Those are our ancestors, yes? So I prayed to my ancestors. I prayed to my mother. I prayed to my father, my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather. I prayed to all my ancestors. I said, y'all need to help me because I'm about to leave this earth before my time. So I came out of prayer. I had a world map just about the size of this picture here. And I had some darts. And I threw the dart at that world map. Out of all the places it could have landed, it landed on that small little place called Japan. That night, I picked up the phone, business class, baby. Bought a business class ticket one way. I'm going to Japan. I called my sisters. I said, y'all got a certain amount of time to come get this stuff because I'm out. They thought I had lost my mind. They come like, okay, oh, she okay? We got to put you in an asylum or something? No, I'm good. Never been to Japan before in my life. I did not speak Japanese. So I board the plane. And as I'm going through the terminal, walking up into the plane, something said, turn around. Then something said, don't you dare turn around. Keep walking. I kept walking and I sat in that seat. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to Japan. Scared. I'm so scared. Like, I've never been to Japan. I've traveled before, but I've never, come on. How many black folk you know in Japan?
Right.
I just know I'm not going to find my tribe.
Exactly.
Exactly. I just know I'm not going to find my tribe.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I was like, okay. And then there was a storm. And they come onto the plane and they say, listen, we need a certain amount of people to get off this plane because there's a storm, we're gonna make it a little lighter.
Mhm.
So the woman comes to me and said, ma'am, could you please go? I said, that's the devil. You ain't getting me off this plane. You better go find somebody else. Because honey, go empty it over there.
Mhm.
I'm going to Japan. I thought it was the devil talking. So then she came back again. She says, ma'am, would you please take the gift? I said, not today. I'm going to Japan. Get him off. Then they came back on that plane. They said, we're going to give a $5,000 voucher, 5,000 flight voucher for anyone who would get off the plane. I said, excuse me, that ain't the devil no more. That's the Lord.
You're telling me to listen,
So
okay?
that was the Lord. He said, you didn't want to listen the first 2 times, but I got something to get you off this plane. So I got off the plane and got my $5,000 voucher.
Mhm.
Went out to LA. Let me just say, I slept through a earthquake. I woke up, everything was turned over. I slept through that. Got up the next morning. Ooh, I'm going to Japan. Beautiful flight. So I'm sitting there and I meet a young man. His name is Tomakani Masai. And I meet him and we're talking. He's telling me all about Japan and what I can expect and that sort of thing. Then I get off the plane. I'm going this way. He's going that way. He comes running towards me, calling my name. Charlotte. And I said, yes. He says, would you like to stay with us, me and my family? Because I was going to stay in a hostel.
Mm.
Okay, now your mama told you don't talk to strangers.
Mhm.
But I was like, okay, well, let me see what this is like. God got me. Went, stayed with him. Never taught a day in my life. See, don't misconstrue. My degree is in pre-med biology. Okay? And so I never taught a day in my life at that time.
Mhm.
Never thought about it. But my mother prophesied to me when I was 12 years old. She said, you're either going to be a teacher or a preacher. I said, I am not going to be somebody's preacher, and I do not like kids.
I'm about to say, you preach, but then you teaching too. So I think it's like combination of both of them.
So that's what she said to me when I was 12 years old. You're going to either be a teacher or a preacher. That's what she said.
Mhm.
So I go and I live with them for a moment, and then the father says, your English is beautiful. It's perfect. And I just look at him and say, okay, whatever. You know, I want you to come to work with me.
Mhm.
The International School of Tokyo, I want you to come to school with me. And your job is just to sit in my classroom and only speak English to the kids. That was my first teaching job.
Wow.
I had 35 first graders, all Japanese, sitting around me, just looking at me. Ooh, black. That was my first teaching job.
Wow.
So, with that being said, years go on, I teach on another small island called Saipan. It's off the coast of Japan. Then I teach other little kids. I teach Fijians, I teach Chamorro, I teach Japanese, I teach Korean, I teach Indian. Then I moved to Australia. Then I come back to America. And I'm teaching blonde hair, blue-eyed children. Then I go back to Australia. And then I get a phone call at 3:00 in the morning. And I answer it. Well, actually, my father-in-law at the time, he answers the phone. He says, there's some America's calling. And I pick up the phone. I say, hello. Hi, my name is Marnie G. McCoy, and I'm interested. I said, who? And what are you interested in?
Okay. Shout out to Miss McCoy too. That was
Yes.
another one.
And I said, well, who? And she says, I have your resume. I never remember sending a resume to her.
Mhm.
And she says, well, I'm interested. And I said, okay, me too. Where are you? She said, Newark, New Jersey. Well, I knew about Brownsville and also knew about Newark. And I said, ooh. But something told me you had never taught kids that look like me.
Mhm.
So that was a no-brainer. Pick up from Australia, come straight to Newark. That was it. And I've been here since. Your question was, and I'll just be honest with you, this is why I push kids the way I push kids.
Mhm.
Because if I can do what I did, I stepped completely out of my comfort zone
Yeah.
to a place where comfort was not even an option. It was my self-discipline. It was me knowing who I am.
Okay.
And that leads to understanding self-discipline. You have to know who you are. And if you do not know who you are and embrace
Yes.
who you are, I embrace my imperfections, always have, always will.
Thank you so much for sharing that, though. That was very powerful. And shout out to Miss McCoy for
Yes.
dragging you on here because I want to met you. So, big
Marty
shout out
G.
to Miss
McCoy.
So the next question, I think I'm gonna throw this to Mr. Hill. In your career path, can you recall specific ways or useful strategies you use to embed discipline in your students?
It's a powerful question. The other ones you sent,
I
that was
got
my favorite.
about 10. I know what you did. And I was taking them to your office. I said, "Get these kids. You better get them. You better come get these children."
It's funny you say that because I remember that too.
Yes. We were a tag team, honey.
I think first and foremost is just one, allowing them to be themselves.
Mhm.
Like, as you know, as one of my students, sometimes it wasn't even about meeting my objective, it's about making sure you were in the right space to receive what I was going to teach. So it was having transparent dialogue, holding them accountable, right? And then having that talk, not being yelled at. And the consequences, letting you decide, okay? Giving you options of these consequences. You know what the behavior was.
Yes.
You tell me what should the outcome be, right? So that allowing the student to become something.
That's for you.
That's telling me, right?
The onus is on you.
Just showing up as my authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing my story, letting you into my life. We were talking before this about how y'all would come, we'll have chats about just different
All the
things.
time.
And I think allowing you to be yourself around me, enable all of the self-discipline I get.
Absolutely.
I think that's the main strategy.
Yeah.
She said
I think that kind of sums it up, honestly. Like, just giving us that, and I can speak for because I was once in, those shoes where you were disciplining me. So it's like I can recall all the times you gave, like even when I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing, or like interrupting class, or just being tired. That time.
He was chatty.
It was always a matter of you
He was
bringing me
very
back
chatty.
center. Like, listen, Ty, I understand, but look at where we are now.
Yeah.
Task that hand, recenter, refocus. So, you always gave me that opportunity to all right, listen, this on you. You decide. Either you gonna do right or you gonna get that discipline. You get what I'm saying? The good discipline. Miss Seriously, not the
He was gonna get that talk.
Okay, right. So we all mentioned, and this goes back to a conversation that we previously had, how we have those different areas of ourselves. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. And in a sense, those strengths can sometimes balance out those weaknesses to keep you, balanced as a person, balanced as an individual. So Mr. Walker, this question is for you. What are some areas you feel you are most disciplined in?
So before even answering that particular question, just going back again to words and the power that words have. And so for me, I always look at things as strengths, and I even teach this to my students, and areas for improvement. Because I think when you say weaknesses, that's a very defeating word where you can literally hear, oh, I have weaknesses, and you can embrace that as that means I don't have to improve on it because it's just a weakness and I accept it for what it is. So for me, like even when it comes to being more self-disciplined, it's here's where I'm extremely disciplined and here's where there's areas for improvement. Because if I look at it like these are just my weak areas, it's like then I don't really have any motivation to want to change that because that's weak is a very finite word. Like weak, that's what I am, right? I don't have to change or do anything about that. So for me, like the areas where I'm strongest in my self-discipline, I would definitely have to say professionally, like being able to get things done for me and my students and whatever that takes, and being able to really tell myself, you got to say yes to this, you got to say no to that. In my personal life, I would definitely say I'm disciplined in my role as a father and husband and making sure that my family, despite all the things that I have going on, that I'm keeping them first, that I'm making sure that they're taken care of, and not just financially, but emotionally, making sure that I'm present, making sure that they know that husband and dad is here and he's willing to drop everything to make sure that you guys are okay and to carve out that time that's needed to be spent there. So I'm definitely very disciplined there. I've always been very disciplined when it came to the area of making good decisions. And I think for me, growing up in Trenton, being disciplined or having self-discipline was a survival skill.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have self-discipline, so like even so when you were talking about those junior high years and those middle school years, where for us as Black men in the hood, like those are the years where you can either choose to follow the wrong crowd, get into the wrong things. And so for me, it was literally like if I don't have self-discipline here, I'm not making it out of this. I'm not going to be the kid that can go to college and do X, Y, and Z. And so for me, I had to learn at a very early age that being self-disciplined in terms of making wise choices and knowing what to say no to and what to say yes to, that was my livelihood. And so I think I've always been strong in that particular area. Like I'm not the type of person where if 30 people are doing this, I got to say yes because 30 people are doing it. I was very comfortable being the person like, well, either y'all not gonna like me, or y'all ain't gonna, I'm just gonna be the oddball out. Right, I'm gonna be the oddball out and just not do that because that doesn't serve me. That's not smart for me. And so that's the, another area where I think I've been really strong. And I think also, like in my faith and, allowing God to lead and letting God be the person to really, order those footsteps and being very disciplined in putting my will second to his, right? And so I came into college as a radio and TV communication major. My whole life was centered around being somebody's broadcaster or being a disc jockey on the radio. Like that was my personality. That's the type of classes, like even in middle school and like summer camps, I was always involved in something around shooting, filming, broadcasting, writing. So that's what I was like, this is what I'm coming to school to do. And God literally showed me like, that's not the plan anymore. Like, you're going to go into education. And so I had to discipline myself or have enough self-discipline to go, who can I trust here, myself or God? And as dope as I think I am and as much as I've been able to navigate life and make these decisions, especially when I'm looking at it like, you've always made good decisions. Like, so you could trust yourself in a situation and literally having to take a back seat and go, I know this is the plan that I have for my life, but let me look and see what education is going to offer me. And so by being disciplined, I was having self-discipline, I was able to put my plans on hold and follow Scott's plan. And in doing so, I met you, I met Lex. And so I would have never been able to be this person that you speak so highly of if I would have followed my own plan, because my plan had nothing to do with education.
He wasn't even, I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all, he wasn't even my counselor. I think I like made him my counselor mentally. I'm just like, oh nah, Mr. Walker, that's who's my counselor. Like, so I used to be going to him for office hours, consulting with him on a lot of stuff that I was doing and like had going on in college. And like, he was always there, but I just had to put that out there. And I think I like made him my career counselor.
But I wouldn't have even been in that space for you to even make me a counselor. I would have said yes to everything that I wanted to say yes to. So I had to learn to say no to my own things and trust a process that was so unfamiliar to me, because I'm like, but going back to divine order, because you mentioned about your mother prophesying over you to say, hey, at 12 years old, you're going to be a teacher. My friends had to be the ones to remind me, like, remember when we was kids and we could be outside playing, running around, and I would literally stop and be like, yo, we about to play school. And I would, and my middle name is Rashad, so I would make them call me Mr. Rashad. One of my friends and I, she just happened to bring that back to my attention. Like, literally, we could be out there just having a great time outside, and I would literally shut everything down, be like, yo, let's go outside and play school. School? They like, we just left school. Why would we want to play school? But I would literally give them homework assignments and try to teach them stuff. And so it was like, going back, like, God, that was always a part of the plan.
That's right.
It was purpose tapping in.
Right. But I had to recognize when he was shifting something. So I've always been, or I would say that I'm great at, recognizing that God's plan is greater than my own, and the discipline that comes with having to do that. Where there's some areas for improvement, definitely over the years I had to get better financially. I was the type of person that I loved spending money.
Mhm.
And so
I'm
having to,
I'm trying to like
having,
And always like that.
No, Miss Dissy is bad. Like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely getting more disciplined with it
Right.
now. But
and I was
still
even,
got some
But in the
areas
talking
seventh
about-
grade, he was like that, buying candy and all that stuff, just spending his last
just
dime.
spending, just spending.
and it was like not spending to the point where I was broke, because I don't like being broke.
Okay.
But recognizing where I was, there were times where it'd be like, you didn't need this.
Right.
And I had a way of making my wants my needs, right?
Yeah.
So I would phrase things like, oh, I need a new pair of sneakers. And it's like, no, you want a new pair of sneakers. You don't
Right.
need a new pair of sneakers. But you phrase it in a way to where you tell yourself, like, I need these, right? And so I was even sharing with my students, like, I remember, and I was telling them, like, about, taking out loans. Like, when you get in graduate school, there's no grants, and they will off. Like, I remember they said, oh, you're eligible for $20,000 in loans. And I was like, $20,000? So I could take out $10,000 a semester. Mind you, I had a graduate assistantship where I didn't need loans
No.
because they were paying for classes. But here I am taking out additional loans because I'm like, that means I could go to the mall and get this.
That's
I could
right.
go do that. I could go do that. And I could get a car, and that's cheaper than having to be financed at 8% of this when my college loans are much less.
Okay.
And so I would rationalize me being financially irresponsible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until it came time to now pay these loans back. And it's like, damn, I didn't have to be this much in debt. Because I literally had a grad assistantship paying for classes, but I still took out loan money so I can go and purchase things that I needed. So I definitely had to learn to be a little bit or a lot. I had to learn to be financially disciplined, learning that, even when it came time to paying those loans back, and I would be like, I could afford to pay them back, but if they're going to give me the opportunity to put them in forbearance, let me go ahead. So I delayed paying them off because I was like, nah, give y'all some money. I'm just getting out of school. I want to enjoy this newfound, income that I got. And then looking at it over the years, like, you could have been done by now. You could have had this much of a dent in it if you would have just disciplined yourself to say, you know what, let me give these people this money. Even, early this morning, I woke up like 3 a.m, like, oh, I woke up this early, I got some things to do. But literally, when God would wake me up like that, it's like, I need to do something. And there was literally some financial things where he's like, take care of this stuff right now before you get your day started. And then you forget, remember you said you was going to pay this off, you was going to do this. You don't do it now, you go get your day started, you'll see something, you'll buy something, and then what was supposed to be set aside for you to handle this financially, you didn't do it. So that was a big area for improvement for me. And I had to improve there. And sometimes, like, when God is trying to get you to work on something, he won't release the blessing that you are waiting for until you do the thing he needs you to do. So there were certain blessings that I couldn't even get until I got myself together financially.
Yeah.
And so once I started to get myself together financially, become more disciplined there, then doors just started opening up. Money was coming in from places where I'm like, dang, okay, you want me to speak here and you're going to pay me how much? But God had to make sure, like, all right, I need you to be financially disciplined because when you get that, I need that money to go here and do X, Y, and Z and do that.
Yes.
Like, I can't even give you that. There's going to be some leftover, some overflow for you to do some of that other stuff.
Absolutely.
But I need you to take care of things. So that's definitely the area where I had to grow tremendously. And then the area that I'm still trying to get there with is, in terms of my physical well-being and getting in better shape. Like I said, running to the car to get here, I was like, whoa. I was in the car for a minute. Somebody was in the car looking at me like, you are? I'm just like, listen, let me get it together. But that's the area where I would definitely be honest, where I definitely need to do a much better job to be more consistent. But even little things like that where I'm like, I just need to be more disciplined there, right? And I can sit here all day and say, I know what to do to get in better shape and to stay in better shape, but what is stopping me from doing it? And so that's where that self-discipline is extremely important. So that's the area right now where a lot of focus, and then even to finish up this doctoral process, I had to learn to say no to something. So I literally had to tell myself, like, it's time for me to finish. It's been taking too long. It's like, all right, well, what are you prepared to say no to? Because you're juggling 25 things. You're going to probably only need to do 10. And are you really going to be willing to say no to those things? So, like, when it came time to teach this semester at Rider, I was like, I ain't going to teach this semester in this course. And that's money. I could have had, but it's like, are you going to say no to the money temporarily so you can finish this, or are you going to try to do all of that and then prolong this even, So for me, I had to say no to money, and sometimes our discipline is to the things that we think benefit us in the short term. And so I said no to teaching, and then it's one thing to tell God what you're going to say no to when there ain't no opportunity. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna say no to this. And so
Mhm.
that sounded cool until they emailed me a week before class. They're like, yeah, a professor can no longer teach this course. You think you can teach it? And I'm like, damn, I did say I was gonna say no. And that was cool when it wasn't nothing to teach. And now they came back with another offer to teach this. Are you truly going to say no? And I remember typing that, but it was the most freeing thing. Like, sorry, I gotta focus on finishing this EDD right now.
Yes.
I can't afford to teach.
Yes.
I'll get back to you in the fall, but right now I really got to make this a priority. And once I hit send, I was like, look at you being disciplined and being able to say no
That's right.
to some money, because you know you like to have a little extras, but you know, I was like, you know what, God had to remind me, you're good financially. You don't need that extra. And so say no to it for right now. And then once you get this degree, it's gonna be a lot more of that, because now you have this piece of paper to really kind of help you ask for more for certain things. And so I had to really recognize that I needed to say no. And that.
Yes.
Because all money ain't good money when it comes to neglecting yourself.
Right.
You
That's
know?
right. That's
Listen,
right.
You got to be able
Listen.
to balance that out.
Unfortunately, we live in a society that literally praises us
Absolutely.
overworking, overextending ourselves. We literally,
Mhm.
and people are asking, like, how do you do all this? God. But then me having to be honest, like, I shouldn't be doing all this. So while people are clapping, like, oh, you doing this, you wearing 1,000 hats. I'm sitting here like, but I'm burnt out.
Yes.
My blood, and that was a big thing for me.
That's one thing I try to remind myself of too. Like every day I get up, it's like, Ty, listen, you're trying to figure it out so you can work smarter, not harder.
Right.
Like I don't want to drive myself down, burn myself
Right.
out,
Right.
wearing too many hats,
Right.
trying to do too much. And it's just like, no, like let me find a way to really just work, smarter.
Right.
But that's an American mentality.
Yeah.
You're valued by all these titles
things.
and how much all this work that you do, but is it quality?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. You got a lot of quantity in it, but is it
Mhm.
quality?
Yep.
You have to have quality time for yourself as well.
Absolutely. I think
That
that was one
takes
of my
discipline.
my biggest influences with this book. Like that was my main aim of it. Is just like to get people to really sit and reflect on who you are as a person. And I say this all the time. If I can take everything away from you that you possess, who are you at heart? You get what I'm saying? So when I get up and I'm reading over these topics and I'm like, going through my book, I'm interacting with like my readers and things like that. That's one thing that I really just challenge everybody to do. Like look within, because after a while you're not going to have that time to just really just sit and focus in on yourself. But everything here is just it's time.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So either you keeping up or you getting left. But it all comes back to us as an individual. If we can't look within, if we can't really tap in and discipline ourselves, be more grateful, pour into ourselves,
Right.
that cup is just getting empty. You get what I'm saying? How are we filling our cups? How are we really pouring into ourselves so we can continue to pour into other people?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So, y'all, listen, I am humble.
You can't pour them in.
Well, no, I think this was like an amazing, connection with you guys. Once again, I am really honored to have like the chance to sit with you all and just like hear your perspectives, allow you guys to share your perspectives of what I experienced firsthand growing up and firsthand meeting you guys and lady, growing up and just like having that chance. It's amazing when you have those individuals that help you to see and reassure you of who you are.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Along your journey of trying to become something that you probably don't even know, is your greatest quality. But you guys did a great job of like showing that. You get what I'm saying? Like, Ty, listen, you can do it. You can do it. I can recall one conversation that I had with each of you that stick with me till this day. And it's like, it's really amazing. And once again, I'm really humbled to have you guys there.
Listen, man, you've come a long way. I'm really proud of you. Because I wasn't just your counselor, I was your teacher, your professor. And then, of course,
don't do that. I know where you about to go with.
And that day you skipped class. And I called him in front of the class. I'm like,
he was like, where's at? Okay.
And he gonna say, I had to go home and help my grandma out or something.
He was like, call her.
I was like, call her on the phone.
You can tell him what it was.
And come to find out, he wasn't going to go help grandma. One of the cousin or somebody that just came home from jail.
So I had to
and he skipped class to go meet his cousin because he just came home.
But I asked him. He was like, absolutely not. You're not missing my class. You get what I'm saying? Like
he was like, no, I gotta go help my grandmother. I'm like, call your grandma right now in front of the class. So he put her on speaker. Come to find out, his cousin had just came home.
But believe what he said. We take that serious.
Yeah. So
He's like,
he had to go home. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you could have went home after. You know, the party will still be going on. Y'all still gonna be over there celebrating after class. But he was really trying that discipline, right? Really trying to get out of class so he could just go say yes. And I'm like, I know what y'all doing. Come on, cousin, come home. Y'all done got the Bibles ready for him.
And I had a paper due. I will never forget. I had a paper due. I turned it in, and I was at the spot typing the paper. I was at my grandmother's house when everybody was there, typing the paper. I submitted it. Boom, I think I got like a low B on it. And I'm like, Mr. Walker, like, you know what? I apologize because I know I didn't put my best foot forward with this paper.
That's right.
And
You
put
got
my
a low
all
B.
into it.
Right.
You see?
And I was like, I could tell a last minute assignment.
Yeah.
Like, you
He
could tell
said it, he
somebody
was
like, let me
no.
just
I'm like,
type
can I
this
do
in
it
real
over?
quick. But yeah, I was so shocked. Like, you really tried to say like you had to. I'm thinking like, grandma, an emergency. You got to
But he
go
had the
help
right
her.
one though.
Right. And he didn't think I was gonna make him call grandma in front of the class.
Like, call your grandmother.
And put her on speaker. Let me talk to her.
Like right now, he was like, yeah, call her.
We just said this is something they were doing in 7th grade. I'm talking about college.
Listen, my job,
This is something they were doing in 7th grade. What you saying?
But
I just want to know, did you call grandma though?
I did.
Yeah.
I had no
And grandma
choice.
told you-
He was not
grandma
going
told
to.
you?
He was not going to continue with it until I called. He was like, no, call. I'm like, you sure? Yup.
And then he said, "Are you sure you want me to do it?"
And that's why he was like, you sure? Because then I found out the real reason why he had to go home.
But no,
Why he went home.
It's those very things that's just like, it's a story that's attached with each of you. And I'm like, once again, honored. I feel like that was a great conversation.
Yes.
I hope you guys took a lot away from that, you know, hearing the perspectives from these amazing individuals. Yeah, so before we end out, I just want to give you guys a chance to once again state your name. If people want to get in contact with you, follow you along your journey, what's your like Instagram, social media, and what's something y'all got coming up?
All right. So Reggie Walker, again, that's my name. Instagram is Flyest Nerd, all one word, Flyest Nerd. And what do I have coming up? Besides finishing this doctoral degree, that's about it. And then once that's done, I am going to get back to the launch of my organization, Kingdom King. So be on the lookout for that.
Well, Charlotte Searcy, Instagram, Facebook. I love the Facebook. So you just look for Charlotte Searcy. Now, what do I have going on next? St. Benedict's Prep, they're known for the Appalachian Trails. So I will actually be taking my first company. I'm the first female teacher, African-American teacher, to have her own company, which will be Burgundy. And I will be taking out close to 120 girls. Appalachian Trail. We'll do 55 miles.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
seriously?
Mama's already did it. I've done it twice.
Uh-huh.
I've clocked 110 miles. We'll add that 55 next to that.
Tell them put some respect on your name.
What y'all say?
Just
How
a
you do
little
it?
bit. Ooh.
That's how you do it.
You got You got it. Listen, that's it. That's it.
That's
Lock
it.
in.
That's for the Facebook.
Hey, but for the Facebook, you can find me on Instagram. It's Ms. Educated with a Z. That cringe, but it's with a Z. I don't do much with it.
So now y'all know where to reach if y'all need it. Definitely.
Listen, stop by St. Benedict's Prep,
That's it.
520 MLK, Newark, New Jersey. As the security guard, I came to see Miss Searcy. Come on through.
Absolutely.
Oh,
They
they
know
know
who
that.
you are. No,
Yeah, they know who I am. They don't follow me.
That's the security guard.
Yeah, that's the security guard. You got to go through him first, you know.
Right. Can't get right in.
No, this ain't for everybody. You just screening.
I am Tony Terrell Hill on Facebook. Mr. Hill spelled out MISTER HILL 83 on Instagram. What's next? I'm still working with Relay. Been there for 3 years. Going on my 4th, training teachers and inspiring school leaders.
Like I said, like, share, subscribe, continue to tap in all year. I have so much in store for you guys. I just want you guys to stay tuned. And to my next topic, my neighbor,